All right, welcome back, guys. So in the last video, we ended up wrapping up our entire application, except with this application, we ended up doing things with the Create React app approach. But now in this video, we're going to see how we can convert our React application to be a Next.js application, which means it's going to be server-side rendered. Now, one thing that I want to note is that when you have a project with Create React app, you can make a production build folder, which then your Django backend can use as a template, and you can have everything running from the exact same server, and that's okay. But with Next.js, this is server-side rendered React, which means you're going to have React running on the server. And because React is very slow on the server, typically when you have a server-side rendered application, you have a completely separate server that's running that Next.js application, or in other words, the server-side rendered React application. Then you have a completely separate server for your backend API. So now this doesn't really change too much in our project. So in terms of our backend, everything's going to be the same, except we won't have to have some kind of production build folder in our backend. So we can actually just even delete this one that's currently in here. Then also inside of our mini shop settings.py, if we go under our template settings, we no longer need this if we're going to be dealing with Next.js. Because right now, we won't have a template that our Django backend would use in production. Instead, our Django backend is strictly going to be treated as a backend API for our Next.js frontend. And then also a nice thing with this whole conversion, this really is the only thing we really have to change in our backend. Everything else can stay exactly the same. So we don't have to touch anything inside of this backend folder, and we can just have it running, and then our Next.js can make API requests to it. Now, what we will be changing is our front end. So because I'll be changing our front end, and because I want to use this previous React application as reference code, just to make our translation easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to be something like reference. So I'm going to right click, rename, and then I'll do reference. Or I can even do front end reference, something like that, just so I know this is my reference code that I can refer to. And then I'm going to open up my terminal. So right now I have my backend and front end reference, and I'm going to run npx create-next-app, and then the name of my app, which is going to be front end. And then I can click enter. And then I can click Y to proceed. And that's going to create this front end folder, which now this front end is going to be my Next.js application. So now I can just go ahead, wait for that to finish. All right, and there we are. So now we have this completed. So I'm going to clear. So currently, if I do an ls, I see my backend, front end, and front end reference. So now I'm going to navigate into my front end. And then right now, this terminal here is going to be for my Next.js front end, where I'm going to run that. Then I'm going to open up another terminal where I'm going to navigate into my backend. I'm going to activate my virtual environment, and I'm going to run my server. So this right here is going to be the exact same. It looks like I spelled something wrong. So run server, or I just didn't even put in the run server command. So anyway, make sure you run your server here. So I'm going to keep that running in the background. Also, your database needs to be running. And now we're just going to be dealing with our front end now. So currently, this is what it looks like. I want to change things up a little bit. So first thing I want to do is make a source folder just to keep things a little more organized. And then this pages, I'm going to bring into this source. I'm just going to move that. And then also the styles. I don't want the styles because we're going to be using Bootstrap for our styling. So I'm just going to delete that. And then the rest I could just leave as is. And then I'm also going to have to make some changes inside of this app and this index. So in this app, this right here is something that is initialized on our different pages, and here you can bring in styling. So currently they brought in this global styling, but I don't want that here, so I'm going to delete that. I also want to change this to be an arrow function, so I'm going to do const, and I'm also going to call this app instead of my app since I like that name a little more. This is going to be equal to this right here, and then I'm going to have an arrow function, and then that's going to return my component. Now, I don't want to just return this component. I want to return a head component that's going to have a link tag, which is going to have my Bootstrap styling. So the way I can have a head tag is I can import head from next/head. And then what I can do is instead of having these curly braces, I'm just going to wrap everything in round parentheses because we're just going to be returning JSX, and then I don't need this return. And then also, just so I can have two different components in here, because I'm going to have my head component, and I'm going to have this component, but we have to make sure that we're returning only one component, so I can use a fragment. So I'm going to wrap all of this in a fragment, which is just an empty component, and then that way we can return both of these as one component. So now in this head, I'm going to want my link and my script tag. So this is something where our reference code is going to come in handy. So we can open up our public index.html. This is where we previously brought this stuff in. So we have this link tag and this script tag. So I could just copy these. So this is going to be my Bootstrap 5, and then I can close this up, and then between here, I can paste that inside of here. And then I'm just going to fix up this indenting. And also I'm just going to change this to be single quotes since I like to use single quotes more than double quotes. So I'll just do that change real quick. And also this right here needs to have a capital O, same with over here, because this technically isn't HTML. Here we're dealing with JavaScript, and this is how we bring this in. And also I'm going to indent this to over. And then you can also have other things between this head as well. So another thing I can do is also have a title, and this will be something like mini shop can be my default title. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Also, I can add some semicolons since I like to have semicolons. Save that. And then I can close things up. And then inside of this index, this is going to be my home page. So the way this works is with these pages, if you have an index.js, this is going to be like the slash route. So when I go to localhost 3000 slash, or just localhost 3000, this index is going to handle that. So the names of these files matter. So if I want to have a slash checkout, I have to specifically make a component which is checkout.js. It has to be spelled all in lowercase if I want the route to be all in lowercase. So the names do matter here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to remove everything that's on this index.js because I want this to be translated from what I had in my previous React project. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is open up this source, containers, home.js. Then inside of here, I'm going to do a command A, command C, and then on Windows, you would just do the equivalent of those, which would probably be control A and control C. And then back in here, I'm going to go ahead and paste with command V, or on Windows, control V. And now we have to make sure that we translate this. So let's see what we've got right now. So I have this const home. Now, one thing I like to do is with Next.js, I like to put the word page after this, just so that way when you're using Next.js, you have less name conflicts. Now, if I had this named home, I wouldn't have any name conflicts in this app, but with Next.js, as an app gets bigger, I find the nice thing to do is just put the name page here. That way you don't have any conflicts with your pages. Then I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna make sure I have home page here as well. So right now what we need is we need this layout, and then also this React import. This we needed previously when we did things with Create React App. But with Next.js, you already have React inside of here and you don't need to import it explicitly. So I can just delete this import. And now let's go ahead, before I save, I'm gonna go ahead and create this layout.js. So this is gonna be in my front end folder. And then I'm gonna create this inside of this source folder. So in here, I'm gonna make an HOCS folder, and then I'm gonna go into my front end reference, open up my HOCS, open up my layout.js, copy everything in here, close that up. And then inside of this front end folder, inside of this HOCS, now I can create my layout.js file, and I can paste what I copied previously. So when we were doing things with Create React App, we were using this fragment, we had this React import. This is stuff I don't need, so I can just remove that. And then also instead of this fragment, I can remove that and have the fragment like so. And then also we were using this helmet component. Now with Next.js, instead of helmet, we use this head component, and then that comes from next/head. So that's what we're going to use here. So I'm going to change this helmet to be head instead. And then that can take in a title, and that can take in this meta. And then this can accept the exact same properties. And now we've just managed to translate this to Next.js. Now before I save, I also want to create this Navbar component. So inside of this source folder, inside of my front end folder, I'm going to make a brand new folder, which I call components. And then in here, I can make a navbar.js. So now again, I'm going to go into my front end reference folder, open up my components, navbar.js. I'm going to do a command A and then command C. I'm going to close that up and then paste that code inside of here. Now let's start translating. So with Next.js, we're not going to be grabbing these link and navlink from React Router DOM because we don't have React Router DOM. Instead, with Next.js, we deal with link. So this is the component, and we import it like so. So from next link is where it comes from. And we don't have this with the curly braces. We have it just like this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find wherever we have the link, which we used with React Router DOM, and I'm going to change this up. So when you pass a class name to this link, which comes from next link, it doesn't apply the styling. If you want to have styling, you need to specifically have an A tag inside of here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to put this mini shop now between here. And then this class name, I'm going to go ahead and cut this. And then I'm going to put it on the anchor tag here. So this is how you can have the styling apply. If I had it on the link, it would not apply. And then also with this link component from next link, instead of using this to like we did with the link from React Router DOM, here instead we use href. And then this is how you can translate the link to now be using the link from Next.js. So it's as easy as that. So now I'm going to find my other links. So here I have nav links. Now these nav links apply the active class when, for example, we're on like the home page, then this right here, if it matches, it would apply the active class. Or if we were on /checkout, then it would apply the active class to this. Now we don't have anything like a nav link with Next.js, but there is an alternative that we can use. So what we can do is we can import something called useRouter, which is coming from Next Router. And then what I can do is I can have a return here, wrap this entire component in curly braces. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to fix up all this indenting. So I'm going to bring this over line. And then I can initiate this router with const router is use router. And then this router is going to have properties I can use, one of which is a path name. And then that path name is going to let me know what is the current path name of the page I'm on. So with that, what I could do is I can change this to be a link. And then once again, if I want styling, what I need to do is have my a tag. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this right here and place it inside of here. And then I don't need this exact. And then this 2 is going to be an href. And now what I want to do is in here, I want to have logic. So I'm going to have some curly braces so I can have some JavaScript logic. And what I want to do is check if router.pathname is equal to /. And then if that's the case, I'm going to have the navlink styling as well as the active styling. Otherwise, if we're not on this path, then instead I'm just going to have the navlink styling. And then this home, I can just put between here. And then that way, if we're on the home page, we're going to have this. Otherwise, we're going to have this. So I'm going to have the exact same kind of logic with this checkout. So to make it easier, I'm just going to copy this and then replace this here. This is going to be for my checkout. And then if my path name is /checkout, then also let me close that side window. So if my path name is /checkout, then I'm going to have this styling. Otherwise, I'm going to have this styling. Then I also have to make sure that my href goes to /checkout. So there we are. Now I can save this, and we've completely now translated our Navbar component to use Next.js. And then also another thing I'm noticing is I don't need this React import. So once again, I can delete that. And there we are, our complete translation. I'm just going to do a quick scan, make sure everything's in order. And it looks like everything looks good here. So now I can go ahead, close this up. Now back inside of my layout. Now everything's going to be in order here. So I can save that. Then I can close that up. And now back inside of our home page, we can go through everything, make sure it's in order. So currently it's not in order because this right here, this import, we can't import things like this. We can't import image assets, file assets of any kind in Next.js like so. In Next.js, what we need to do is we need to make use of the public folder. So the public folder is this one right over here. So what I can do is I can make a folder inside of here, and I can just call it something like images, or I can even go further, do something like assets, then have an images folder inside of there. But in my case, I'm just going to do it like this. And then what I'm going to do is inside of my front-end reference, source, assets, images, I'm going to go ahead and copy this image here. I'm going to copy that, close this up, and then I'm going to go back to my front-end folder. Then inside of this public images, I'm going to go ahead and paste in this image. So just like that. So right now this import here is going to be a little bit different. So this import, we're going to have to go up a directory, up another directory, and now here we have the public, and then images, and then headphones.jpg. So this is how we can bring it inside of here. So it has to be from this public folder. So now from there, we can go down, and then we have the image component that uses this. So with images in Next.js, you can use the image tag like this, but there is a more efficient tag that you can use. Next.js specifically has an image tag. So you can import it like so. So import image from next image. And this will just be a more optimized image. So instead of this image tag, now I can bring in this image. And then also another thing I'm noticing, we have this link tag here. So that's another thing I'm going to fix up. And also this image, how it is right now, it's not going to work, but we're going to come back to this in a moment. First, I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to have my anchor tag. And then I'm going to put this text between there. Then I'm going to grab this styling here. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to place it here. And then I'm going to change this to be an href. And just like that, we can translate this. And then also this right here, instead of coming from React Router DOM, I have to make sure I bring in link. And that's going to come from next link. So that's how I import that. So now let's continue onwards. Let's see if anything else has to be changed. Everything else in here looks good. So now we're going to start dealing with this image. So for now, I'm going to leave things how they are. I'm going to open up my terminal. So this is inside of my front end folder. So the way I can run my front end, we can actually even take a look inside of the package.json. You have a couple different scripts here, one of which is this dev. So this right here is how you can run your development environment. And then if you want things in production, what you can do is you can do an npm run build. That's going to give you a build folder, where then you can do an npm run start to run that production build folder. And then if I did this npm run start without a build folder, then it will just throw me an error. So in development mode, what I can do is npm run dev, and that's going to run my Next.js front end. So I'm just going to have my front end and my back end running inside of the background. Close that up. Close up this package.json, and let's see how things look right now. So inside of here, I'm going to run my localhost 3000, and there we are. Everything is exactly as it was before, except right now if I were to click on this link or this link here, I don't have a checkout page currently, so that would throw me an error, or I guess more specifically a 404 not found page. And also you can customize these 404 not found pages, and the way you can do that is inside of your pages. You can make a 404.js file, and then in there you can make your own custom 404 page. I'm not going to focus on that inside of this video, but just wanted to point that out. So let's go back. So here our home page is now complete. So our next step is just to finish up the checkout page, the thank you page, and then we're good to go. And we've completely translated our Create React application to Next.js, and then we just have to test things out. So back inside of here, let's go make our next page. This is going to be our checkout page. So it's going to be checkout.js, and make sure to spell this in all lowercase. That way when we go to /checkout, this is going to be the component that loads up for that route. So that's the way it works. So for our thank you page, if we take a look at that route, so inside of my front end reference, app.js, that was thank-u. So we have to name our thank you page exactly like this. So I'm also going to make that page as well. So inside of here, I'm going to make a file, which is thank-u.js. So make sure to have this exact spelling. And then this is going to load up the component when we go to the route /thank-u. So let's start off with our checkout first. So what I'm going to do is go into my front end reference, containers, checkout.js. Then inside of here, I'm going to do a command A to select everything inside of this file. Do a command C to copy everything. I'm going to close that. And then inside of here, I'm going to paste. And then we're going to start to translate this. So first thing I'm going to do is here I'm going to change this to be checkout page, just because like I mentioned, I like to have the word page after the components that are specifically pages in Next.js. I'm going to go down, and then I'm also going to change it right over here with the default export. Then I'm going to go back up, and let's start to adjust things. So I don't need to import React, and I don't need to import this fragment. So I'm just going to have the import like so. So I'm going to specifically import useState, useEffect. Now we don't have a redirect component, so I'm going to remove that. And then here we're dealing with Axios, so that's something we have to make sure we import, as well as this React loader spinner and this Braintree web drop in React. So I'm going to go ahead, open up my terminal, stop running my front end. Also, I can close that side window for now. And then I'm going to clear things up. So I'm going to do an npm install, save, and then I want to bring in Axios. Then I want to bring in this Braintree web drop in React. I'm going to paste that inside of here. And then I also want my React loader spinner. I'm going to click enter, let these packages install. So there we are. I'm going to clear, do an npm run dev. And now we have these packages installed and we can freely use them inside of here now. And then this headphones, I also want to make sure I have the correct import here. So that's going to be coming from up a directory, up another directory, public, images, headphones.jpg. So now we have this imported correctly. So let's continue down. So we have some state here. This is all perfectly fine. Now with redirects, what we're going to have to do is just like how we had inside of our navbar. So if I open that up, so we had this use router and we initialized this router. Now this router, you have this path name that you could use. So that's one use case for it. But here we're going to see another use case for it, which is for redirecting. So that's another useful thing you can do. So once again, I'm going to import use router. This is coming from next router. And then I'm going to initialize that. I'll do that, say, at the top here. So const router is use router. And then we can find where we have our redirect. So that should be right above our return. That's typically where I place these. So right over here. And then instead of returning this redirect to thank you, instead what I can do is router.push. And I want to have the correct indenting. And then this is going to push to /thank-u. And just like that, you can do the redirect. And then I can remove this right here. And I don't have to return this or anything. I can just have it like so. And then another thing that's typically good to do is just to ensure that this router even exists. So a way you can do that, a nice trick, is you can do type of window not equal to undefined in strings and success. So if this check right here passes, then we can rest assured that this router exists. Now, technically, it probably wouldn't be possible for someone to fill out our entire checkout process and click place order before this window exists, but this is always a nice little thing to add in just to make sure that the router exists. And then this is how we can do a redirect. So it's as easy as this. So let's go back up, make sure that everything else is in order. So here we have this form data. Here we have more uses of use state. So this is all fine. We destructured our form data. That's all fine. Here we have our use effect. We're making use of Axios to make a request to generate our token. So that's all fine. So we can continue down here. We have our on change, on address change. We have our form styling. This is all in order. We have this const by when our form submitted. So this is all fine as well. Nothing we have to change in here. So I can go down. We dealt with the redirect. Our layout's fine. We don't have to touch anything there. So let's continue down here, see if there's anything else that we need to translate. So all of these form groups, we don't have to touch anything here. It's going to all be the exact same. We have our loader component. That's good. We have our drop-in component. Nothing we have to touch here. This is all fine as well. Here we have a fragment. So I'm going to remove this fragment and just have it like so. And then let's keep going down. Here we have an image component. So this is another place where it's good to make use of our image. So I'm going to go up. Then I'm going to import image from next image. Then I'm going to go down. I'm going to find where I have this image. So that was right at the bottom here. And I'm going to use my image component instead. So I'm going to go ahead and save. And let's see if everything's in order here. So I'm going to refresh. I'm going to click here. And it looks like everything's in order. So initially I thought there was going to be a little change I'd have to make to these images, but looks like everything is appearing fine here. So typically how this works with these images is you have to pass a width and a height to these. So explicitly I have to do something like width is, let's say, like 50, or let's say more realistically 200. Height is something like 150. And then if you don't pass these, instead what you have to do is you have to pass a layout equal to fill. And then you have to make sure that this component right here is a position of absolute and that the parent is a position of relative. Or I guess you don't have to specifically say that this is position absolute, but the parent has to be a position of relative. But right now this component seems to be working anyway. For some reason it's working now. So yeah, it looks like there's no changes we have to actually make to this. But if you do have an issue, then just do layout equals fill. Make sure that the parent component is relative, and then it should be fine. So now the final thing we have to do is adjust our thank you page. So I'm going to open up my side window, and then I'm going to scroll down to my front end reference. I'm going to open up this thank you. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go here, close this up, paste that code in here. I don't need this React import. I can remove that. And then I have to make sure this link is coming from next link. So I'm going to import link. This is going to be from next link. Then I can save that. And then right here, just so that the styling actually applies, this is actually a good place to demonstrate this. So if I go to /thank you, and then also I have to make sure I have the correct prop. So instead of having the to prop, I have to make sure I have the href prop. So now what we're going to see is the styling didn't actually apply. So that's because this class name is on the link itself. So I'm going to cut this. I'm going to make an a tag. I'm going to paste. And then I'm going to put this back to site text between the anchor tag. And then I'm going to save. And then we're going to see that the styling now gets applied. So that's just to demonstrate that. Then you can click that, go back to the site. So there we are. Now we've completely translated our React application to a Next.js application. So now we can test out making a payment. So I didn't touch anything previously, so I still have the exact same data in here. I'm just going to refresh, make sure I'm still signed in. So there we are. So this is on localhost 8000/admin/. So note that this is localhost 8000. And then here, my front end's on localhost 3000. This is my server-side rendered React running. So now what I can do is I can check out. I have these customers. I have these addresses, orders, payment methods. Now let's go ahead and make a payment with, let's say, my John Doe account. I'm going to make a payment. And then I'm going to put in a different address. I'm going to test something like that. So let's go ahead and do that. going to click here. I'm going to put in John Doe at gmail.com. Then I'm going to put in a different address. I'm going to do 3124 Strawberry Boulevard. I'm going to put a city, something like Kiwi. I'm going to put Canada, Ontario, a postal code. Actually, let me make this one a little different. And then I'm going to put in my payment. And just to keep things a little easier, I'm going to use a card instead of PayPal. I've already tested things with PayPal. But you know what? Actually, I might also test out PayPal after this just to ensure that everything's in order. But anyway, let's first test this out. So I'm going to place my order. And if everything's in order, I should go to the thank you page. So there we are. Everything worked out. But let's also make sure that everything actually worked out. So right here, I should have no new customer, still have John Doe. In terms of addresses, I have a brand new address now. So that was my Strawberry Boulevard with the city of Kiwi and all these other details. And then my payment methods, I have a new payment method here. And then I should also have a brand new order. So there we are. This was my John Doe user that made this order. And then we can go into Braintree's vault. And then we can search for our customers. And then our John Doe customer, that's the one that made this order. So here's my John user. I'm going to click that. So we have a brand new payment method that we used, which was this one right here. And then also have transactions. So this one right now is submitted for settlement. You can also see that when it actually settles, we have settled here. And then this is the correct amount. Then we have a brand new address here. And then we can also take a look at, let's say right here with this new payment method, it should have a different billing address. So there we go. It's linked to the correct billing address. And then also the transactions should have the correct shipping address. So if I go down, so here we go. Billing address is this one I put in here, and then shipping, same as billing. So perfect. Everything worked with a card payment. So now let's finish up this entire course by testing out a PayPal payment through server-side rendered React as well, just to make sure that everything works appropriately. So inside of here, I'm going to search for PayPal developer. And then inside of here, I'm going to have a link for developer.paypal.com. I can click on that. I can log into my dashboard. I'm just going to log in with my account for PayPal. So this is the account that I personally created. Then I'm going to click on my accounts. And then I'm going to go ahead with this personal account. Make sure it's a personal account. I'm going to view the account. And then I'm going to copy this email because that's what I'm going to use to make the payment. Then back in my application, I can go to checkout. And then I'm going to make another checkout with my John Doe user. And then in this case, I'm going to do something like my banana crescent like I did before. So this way I'm going to use an address that already exists. Just test that out because I just tested creating an address. So there we are. I'm going to do PayPal checkout. I'm going to put in this email address here. I'm going to go back, grab my system generated password. And I'm going to plug that in here so I can log in. And if all of this ends up working out, then we're going to be all wrapped up with this tutorial. So here we are, selected the payment method. Let's place the order now. And there we are. We're redirected to the thank you page, which means that everything worked appropriately. So now I can go back to the site. And then we can also make sure that everything ended up working appropriately. So I'm going to go back to my customers, do a little refresh. We should have no new customers. The addresses, we should have no new addresses because we reused this one right over here. And then inside of my payment methods, we have a brand new payment method, which is my PayPal payment method, linked to the John Doe user, and then also linked to this billing address. And then I should also have a brand new order. So that links to the John Doe user, has this transaction ID, links to this address right here, and links to this payment method, which should be that PayPal payment method. And we can confirm that it should be the one right at the top, and it is. So perfect. Then we can go into Braintree, and then I can go to the vault, and then I can search this vault, and then click on my John Doe user, because this one just made a brand new transaction. We can see they have another payment method stored. This is that PayPal payment method. We can see a new transaction was made, so it's settling right now. And then we also have the exact same addresses, so no new address was created in here. And then I can also click on this payment method. I can view some details about that. Then I can go back, I can view my latest transaction, and then I can see the details of that. I can see the shipping address right here, which is that banana crescent, which is what I used. So perfect. So everything worked appropriately. I have the correct amounts and everything. So there we are. We are now all wrapped up with this entire course. So hope you guys enjoyed this e-commerce mini course and gained a lot of value out of it. And if you want more free value, I also have a YouTube channel that you can check out where I post great content each and every week. Also, if you want to learn how to develop a more feature-rich e-commerce application with authentication, including social authentication with Google and Facebook, an application that has products and categories, cart functionality, shipping, payments and orders, coupons, a user profile, a wish list, review functionality, also global state management with Redux and much more, then you can click the link below and check that out if you're interested in creating a feature-rich e-commerce application like that. Also, there's a link below the video that you can click for joining my Facebook group where there's many other developers. And so if you want to get tons of value from me and other developers in the group personally, then go ahead, click that link and join the family. And that is all. So I hope you guys enjoyed this mini e-commerce course, and you can look forward to much more value-packed content in the future. So hope to see you guys there.